Embryonic stem cells have the potential to change the future of medicine by leading to new cell therapies, by leading to the discovery of safer and more effective new medicines. But the policy that was in place under President Bush's administration really held back embryonic stem cell research by forcing federally funded scientists to work with a very small number of embryonic stem cell lines. And that really got in the way of many of the important things we'd like to be able to do. So the new NIH policy that makes many more embryonic stem cell lines available to scientists will really accelerate progress. One issue with the NIH draft guidelines is that they specified extensive standards and very specific standards for the informed consent documents that someone would have to sign to donate embryos for this research, embryos that were being discarded from fertility clinics. Those standards are fine going forward, but trying to retroactively apply them to lines that were derived 5 and 10 years ago is a huge problem, because even though those lines were derived according to the highest ethical standards that anyone could think of at the time, some of the details in the new draft policy were things people hadn't thought of. And so the issue here is that we have hundreds of embryonic stem cell lines that were derived ethically, but which wouldn't have met the letter of some of the specific standards under the draft NIH policy. So with the revised policy now, they've loosened the standards that would have to be applied to pre-existing lines, even while ensuring that any new line that's derived is done according to the highest standards. Another issue with the draft policy was that it wasn't clear how individual universities or other research institutions would know exactly what lines were considered to follow the NIH policy and eligible for funding and which lines were not. And so one concern was the need to create a registry where there would be one common list that everyone could work from. And now the revised guidelines have established a mechanism for doing that. I think President Obama should be commended for making it possible to base science policy on the science now. And the NIH should be commended for taking a leadership role to make it possible now to accelerate this research. Embryonic stem cell research really offers opportunities to cure disease that don't exist otherwise. And now with this new policy in place, we'll be able to provide many more lines to scientists who are federally funded. So this revised policy really sets the stage to dramatically accelerate research in this area. But there's a lot of questions now about how we actually implement the policy. How do we decide exactly which lines follow the policy, make those lines available to federally funded scientists, and what's the process by which the policy will evolve in the future in response to changes in the science? I think the NIH guidelines represent a reasonable compromise based on where the science stands now. But this science is evolving at an incredibly rapid pace, and it may be necessary down the road to revisit some of the details of this policy depending on how the science evolves.